earlier this week, Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland referenced the fact that the city of Memphis is about 400 to 500 police officers short on the local force. But we're not the only ones in the country. Carmen, law enforcement specialist, joins us this morning on Memphis Morning News. Alex, 400 to 500 here in Memphis, but that's just the tip of the iceberg compared to some other cities, huh?
Absolutely, and thanks for having me this morning.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a nationwide problem that we're facing right now.
All right, for instance, so Memphis 400 to 500, here that does have an impact, and it does stress the police force physically and I'm sure mentally as well. Can you talk about what's happening elsewhere in the U.S.?
Well, what we're seeing that police officers are on a higher demand than they were ever before. People are calling police officers for things that typically they wouldn't have called them in the past. In addition to that, you have social media, you have the ability for people to connect and understand that they can reach out the police services in other ways other than picking up the phone and calling. And so all of these things are really prompting law enforcement to be just completely run down in terms of what they can do for the rest of us. And then added to that, you have things such as Ferguson and various other components throughout the United States that have led to a very negative attitude towards cops. It's not surprising to any of us that we're seeing across the United States a shortage of people that are just simply not interested in law enforcement, period.
Well, and then you take into account, I guess, attrition is a police chief's, I don't know if it's their worst nightmare, but they know every year that's a problem they've got to deal with. Can you talk a bit about that? Is the attrition rate holding steady, or have you seen changes in recent years?
Well, here in Texas, one of the things that we see that a lot of law enforcement officers that retire from a particular agency after 30-plus years of service, many of them are baby boomers. They find themselves, getting appointed or being asked to step in as a chief in a smaller city. And so even though there is some degree of fallout in terms of those that retire or, simply move on to elsewhere, there are some that actually come back in a different role. But they're still lingering on. I had a class a few days ago where we had a chief of police that had been in service for 42 years. And so that is not unusual anymore to find people that have been around for such a long time.
Yeah. Dr. Alex Carmen joining us on Memphis Morning News. I know some cities have problems with acquiring additional officers. One maybe because of the pay, maybe perhaps due to maybe there are not enough taxes to pay. For instance, I'm sure there's some cities that don't have the money to hire officers that are even willing to come.
That's right. And I think, with the negativity of the job, just a couple of days ago here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we lost a police officer in the line of duty. And it just resonates with the rest of us as to, how dangerous that job is. And in many ways, some people, especially young millennials that are coming up in the workforce right now, they're looking at it as a possibility, saying, why in the world would I want to do that job? Why would I want to seek a career in law enforcement where I'm going to be scrutinized by everyone? The media is going to be following me around. The pay is not ideal. The hours are lousy. And, and promotion is very slow. So they look for other options. I mean, we see this in our universities as well, where people come in and seek a criminology degree, and they're really looking for a federal appointment versus a local law enforcement entity where they would work.
You bring up a lot of great points about the stress and the pressure that are on the men and women that wear the uniform and serve, and it's why I admire and respect them so much. I think another interesting point too, Alan, has been the recruiting efforts that go on. That you'll see. I've seen it here in our city. A police department from somewhere hundreds of miles away will come in to try to recruit and take away your best officers. So it's also a battle out there to try to keep the best of the best in your city, right?
There's no question. And then you also see that, the competition is nationwide. It's not only localized, but you've got big police departments like New York and L.A. coming to small towns and saying, look, we'll pay you twice as much and you live in a great city. So it's very hard for smaller cities to be able to compete against that.
All right, very good. Dr. Alex Carmen, thank you so much for joining us on Memphis Morning News. Hope you have a great rest of your week, sir.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.